Hello, fifth graders. Today you're going to be doing your second day of revising, and I believe it's our last day of revising because next week we're going to move into editing and publishing. So today for revising, we're going to be developing the plot of our story. It's not the only thing we'll be doing, but it will be our main focus. So if you check over here, let's take a look at the plot. So the plot, just to remind you, is a sequence of events that take place in a piece of literary work. And you can think of a plot as either a mountain, you could think of it as a roller coaster ride like you see in this picture here. You have 5 main parts to a plot. You have the beginning, the exposition, where you're introducing your characters and their background. You have a rising action, where you it's a series of events that lead to a big problem. Then you have your climax, which is this big problem, and it's usually the longest part of your story, and it's the part that really you're getting to. It's the big turning point. Then you have your falling action where you start to solve the problem and you come up with some solutions, and finally your resolution where the problem begins to get solved. Now this doesn't have to be in our westward expansion writing. The problem being solved doesn't have to be you finally arrive in Oregon or you finally everything is okay. Your resolution can be an ongoing resolution, but there should be something to close the writing up. So for example, it shouldn't just be something that says, I'll write again next time, and then you're not writing ever again. So today's task, we will be revising to develop a plot of our historical fiction journal entries. And here are 3 things that you can focus on while you're doing that. First, you're going to read your entire work carefully and respond to the feedback given by me. Next, you're going to add the key parts of your story, making sure that you've really included a climax and a solution to your story. Those are really important. You want to give the background to your character, climax, and solution. Then reread your story and make sure it makes sense. Oftentimes we use our blue font, as another reminder, we use our blue font to revise, and then we go through and we add all this great information, and then we submit it, and while I'm reading it, I'm like, I can tell this person hasn't reread their work because it doesn't necessarily make sense. So when you're revising, you might have to go back and change some other sentences besides the main sentence that you changed or moved to make sure that it makes sense and it's still in chronological order and it goes in a nice flow. Here's an example of what revising might sound like today. You could have started by saying, I was riding the wagon when I suddenly noticed my first buffalo. It was huge. You might revise to say, and I did this purposely to include a rising action, to really focus on something interesting in the story and make it more interesting to listen to rather than just really plain. Listen to how much more detailed and interesting this sounds. I could feel every bump in the so-called road as our steel-covered wooden wheels slammed into the rocks. I was feeling anxious as thoughts of the future raced through my mind with every bump. Will we make it safely? Will we have enough water? Then suddenly, the most glorious creature I have ever seen appeared. Oh, I have an idea. So I might make the screen bigger. Reminders. Add in as much research as possible from the investigations, your classwork, your videos, and your notes. Today's your day to really include jam-packed research. You heard in Facing West, hopefully you've listened to Facing West, you heard in Facing West how much detail is included that they had to research. Today you're going to do the same thing. There's figurative language that's appropriate for the time period. There are landmarks that are appropriate for the time period. Those are all really great things to include. This should take the longest out of any of your writing days. It's really hard work to revise. If you notice that you've revised for 10 or 15 minutes and then walked away from your writing piece, you did not really revise. Normally in class, we would have the benefit of peer revising, where you would have a fellow classmate help you do that. So that's why today's going to be really hard, because you need to almost put on another set of goggles, pretend you're not yourself, and reread your work and think, what can I add to make it more detailed and make the plot really visible in my writing? You're revising by adding and removing parts from your writing. Now, okay, Snoopy, calm down. Now, your plot should start with your first entry and end in your last entry. You're not creating a plot in every single entry. So that means that there's not going to be a climax in every single entry. There's going to be one journal entry that has a big climax, or two or three. But point being that there's not going to be this huge roller coaster ride in every single entry. It's going to take place over all 5 entries, or however many you have. As a reminder, also look to add your character development, your sensory details, your photos with labels, and proper journal format. That's a date, greeting, and closing all included. Good luck with your writing today, and make sure to reach out if you have any questions or need any help. See you soon.